Let me ask you something most people never stop to think about. What do the smartest people you know, the ones who seem to always be ahead, always calm, always growing, what do they actually do when nobody's watching? Not in meetings, not on social media, not when they're trying to impress anyone. Because here's the truth that most self-improvement content will never tell you. Real intelligence doesn't perform. It operates quietly, consistently, and almost invisibly. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on three specific habits that highly intelligent people practice in private. These aren't about IQ, they're not about degrees or titles, they're behavioral patterns rooted in psychology that quietly separate people who grow from people who stay stuck. Stay with me because the third one is going to completely change how you see yourself. Transition. Now, before we get into these, I want to make one thing clear. This isn't a list of clever productivity hacks. What we're about to talk about goes deeper than that, into how intelligent people think, how they process the world, and why their private moments look so different from everyone else's. Let's get into it. Point 1. They sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. Here's something that sounds simple but is actually incredibly rare. When highly intelligent people feel anxious, bored, confused, or frustrated, they don't immediately reach for their phone. They don't turn on Netflix. They don't scroll. They sit with it. Psychologists call this distress tolerance, the ability to experience uncomfortable emotions without immediately acting to escape them. And research consistently shows it's one of the strongest predictors of long-term mental and cognitive performance. Here's why this matters. Every time you feel a negative emotion and immediately reach for a distraction, you're training your brain that discomfort is a threat that must be avoided. Over time, your brain becomes less and less capable of sustaining focus, tolerating uncertainty, or working through hard problems. But when you sit with discomfort, even for just a few minutes, something different happens. Your prefrontal cortex stays engaged, your nervous system learns that difficult feelings are survivable, and your capacity for deep thinking actually expands. Intelligent people understand this intuitively. When they're stuck on a problem, they don't panic and distract themselves. They let the tension sit. They stay with the question. There's a famous story about Isaac Newton spending months staring at a single problem without solving it, and people around him thought he was losing his mind. He wasn't. He was doing something most people never do, tolerating the discomfort of not knowing long enough for a real answer to emerge. You don't have to be Newton, but the next time you feel the urge to immediately escape a feeling, pause. Give it 5 minutes. Just sit. You'll be surprised what your brain does when you stop running from it. Point 2. They argue against themselves. This one surprises people when they first hear it. Highly intelligent people, when they're alone, regularly argue against their own beliefs. They take an opinion they hold, and they deliberately try to tear it apart. They ask, what if I'm wrong about this? What would someone who disagrees with me say? What evidence am I ignoring? This is called steel-manning, and it's the opposite of what most people do. Most people, when they think about their beliefs, look for reasons they're right. They look for a confirmation. Psychologists call this confirmation bias, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping human thought. Intelligent people have learned to fight this bias by becoming their own best critics, in private. Carl Jung talked about this in a different way. He called it the process of confronting your own shadow, the parts of yourself, your beliefs, your assumptions that you'd rather not look at. Most people project their flaws onto the world, but people who are genuinely developing themselves learn to turn the lens inward, and here's the practical power of this habit. When you regularly challenge your own thinking, you stop being surprised by reality. You've already thought through the counterarguments. You've already explored the other side. So when life pushes back, and it always does, you're not destabilized. You're prepared. The smartest people in any room aren't the ones with the loudest opinions. They're the ones who have quietly interrogated their opinions more thoroughly than anyone else. Try this tonight. Pick one strong belief you hold about your career, your relationships, yourself, and spend 10 minutes arguing against it as hard as you can. Don't perform this for anyone. Do it honestly, privately. You might discover something that changes everything. Point 3. They practice invisible mastery. Now here's the one I promised you at the beginning, and it's the one most people never talk about. Highly intelligent people spend significant time in private practicing skills that have no immediate payoff. Not for a job, not for social media, not to impress anyone. Just because mastery, the act of deeply understanding something, is intrinsically valuable to them. Psychologists call this autotelic experience, from the Greek words for self and goal. It means doing something that is its own reward, with no external motivation needed. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who pioneered the research on flow states, found that the people who experience the most flow, that deep, absorbed, effortless state of peak performance, were not the people chasing the biggest rewards. They were the people who had cultivated a relationship with challenge itself. People who practiced things, studied things, and explored things because the doing mattered. Here's what this looks like in practice. An intelligent person might spend an hour reading about a topic that has nothing to do with their career, just because it fascinates them. They might practice a skill they'll never monetize. They might sit with a mathematical puzzle or a philosophical question or a piece of music, not to produce anything but to understand something more deeply than they did before. This habit does something profound over time. It builds what researchers call cognitive reserve, a kind of mental resilience that allows intelligent people to draw on vast internal resources when life gets hard, when problems get complex, when most people hit a wall and stop. In other words, the intelligence you see in public was built in private, through thousands of hours of invisible mastery that nobody watched, nobody liked, nobody rewarded. The question worth asking yourself is, what are you building when no one is watching? So let's bring this together. The 3 things highly intelligent people secretly do when no one is watching. 1. They sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. They let tension become fuel. 2. They argue against themselves. They challenge their own beliefs before life does it for them. 3. They practice invisible mastery. They build in private what the world eventually sees in public. None of these are flashy. None of them go viral. But they are the quiet foundation of every person you've ever admired and wondered, how did they get there? Now here's my challenge to you. Pick one of these 3 habits, just one, and try it this week. Sit with a feeling instead of escaping it. Argue against a belief you hold. Learn something just because it matters to you. And if this video gave you something real, do something real in return. Subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and drop in the comments. Which of these 3 habits do you think is the hardest to practice? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.